Good day, beautiful, bountiful, beloved, immortal beings, and good-looking people. Remember, you're good-looking because you're always looking for and finding the good, and we have good in abundance today. You, hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people around the world have consciously and conscientiously tuned into the Keep Smiling Show with your humble host, Barry Shore, the ambassador of joy, and we welcome you. Now, we know that on this show, you have tuned in for one reason and one reason only, and that's a great reason. The reason is because you care the most, the entire world, about you. Y-O-U-E-W-E. And that's great because when you care the most about you, you become the best you possible. When you become the best you build bridges of harmony in the world. You spread more joy, happiness, peace, and love. And that's why you're here. And you know that on this show, the Keep Smiling Show with Barry Shore, that we're going to talk about the three fundamentals of life. And when you use these three fundamentals of life, you will be happier, healthier, and wealthier, guaranteed, or your money back. Okay, let's begin. The three fundamentals of life, of course, are number one, life. Your life has purpose. And when you lead a purpose-driven life, number two happens. This is a good number two. You go mad. MAD is a wonderful acronym that stands for make a difference. Lead a purpose-driven life, you make a difference in the world. And the third fundamental is to uncover and unlock the power and the secrets of everyday words and terms. Simple example. Right now, we are carried over Roku TV based on the internet, that magical, mystical, mysterious platform called the internet. And if you ask anybody, what does WWW stand for? Invariably, they'll say, well, the internet. And factually speaking, they're correct. But in our world, the world of the positive, purposeful, powerful, and pleasant, WWW stands for, drum roll, fanfare, da-da, da-da. What a wonderful world. And what is a word, right? W-H-E-T-A. What a wonderful world. And of course, a tip of the hat and a big thank you to Louis Armstrong, Satchmo, for enabling that song to go viral and touch not just tens of millions or hundreds of millions, but billions of people around the planet. And why? Because you know, when you hear the opening bars of What a Wonderful World, you can't help but smile. Now, smile is one of the greatest words that you can ever internalize, utilize, and leverage in your life, because SMILE is an acronym that stands for Seeing Miracles in Life Every Day. Seeing miracles in life every day. Now, before COVID, when we were talking to real human beings and places, I had an audience of about 5,200 people. And I'm telling the story about Barry Shore and the idea of seeing miracles in life every day. And invariably people raise their hand, hey, Barry Shore, I've been up for hours where I haven't seen any miracles. And I asked them, are you here? Can you hear? Can you see? Can you stand? I can't. Can you walk? Do you have water, drink, food to eat, a place to sleep, family, friends? All of those are miracles. And what's the proof? Simple proof. 1 million people did not get out of bed this morning. You know why? They died. Now, by the definition, if you're watching this, so you're hearing this, you're here, you didn't, you're alive. If you're alive, you have an obligation to live exuberantly. That's the whole point of the Keep Smiling Show with Barry Shore, your humble host. And our guest today is going to infuse, invigorate, and inspire you to learn how to see miracles in life every day. By the way, just imagine the following. Standing up in the morning, hale and hearty, able to leap tall buildings in a single bound, and that night be in the hospital totally, completely paralyzed. That's me, Barry Shore. Overnight became a quadriplegic. It was not an automobile accident like our amazing guest or a spinal injury. A rare disease took over my body, which I never heard of the day before, and rendered me completely, totally paralyzed. Nothing in my body moved. 144 days in the hospital. I was in a hospital bed in my own home for 2 years. I couldn't turn over by myself. I was 4 years in a wheelchair. I had braces on both of my legs, my hips to my ankles, and that was progress. And now, thank God, I'm able to be vertical and ambulatory with the help of a 7-foot walking one. So I'm a triped, not a biped, but I still can't walk up a stair by myself. I can't walk up a curb by myself. And I have help 12 hours a day, 7 days a week. But you hear my voice, positive, purposeful, powerful, and pleasant. Why? all because of this one word. Smile, keep smiling, seeing miracles in life every day. But I got to tell you a quick story. I'm sorry. My 8-year-old niece comes over to me a couple of weeks ago. She says, Uncle Barry, can we spell smile S-M-I-E-L? And I thought about it. Sounds the same. I asked her, how come? She says, because then it would stand for seeing miracles in everyday life. Out of the mouth of babes. But what was she doing? She was creating the kind of world that she wants to live in. Now, CREATE is a wonderful acronym that stands for causing rethinking, enabling all to excel. Thinking, thank God you have a brain. Your brain has over 100 billion brain cells and more than 120 trillion synapses connecting them all. And they're there for more than deciding what kind of latte you want this morning. The ability to do neuro-linguistic programming that you get to choose in life. Choice, not chance, determines your destiny. So before we bring on amazing Dr. Dan Gottlieb, again, who will inspire and impact and help transform you, I want to interrupt myself and warn you in advance that your humble host does use a lot of 4-letter words. And now, you know, because we live in the world of positive, purposeful, powerful, and pleasant, these 4-letter words that we use are love, life, hope, grow, free, gift, swim, pray, play. They're 4-letter words I urge you to use. And we even use the 4-letter FU word. And I do it because it's fun and the shock value. Now, of course, the 4-letter FU word that we use is fun. Fun. Parry Shaw said, people say fun's only spelled with 3 letters. Not in our world. Fun is spelled F-U, capital N, capital N. So when you see your family and friends after the show, you have a twinkle in your eye, a smile on your face. Remember, you point your finger and say, F you, everybody. But remember to add right away, capital N, capital A. So where'd you get that? I said, I listened to Barry Shore on the Keep Smiling show. He wants to teach the world to F you. Capital N, capital N. So before Dr. Amazing Dan Fabulous Gottlieb comes on the show, I'm going to ask everybody to do the following to help spread more joy into the world. You're going to literally do this for yourself, for your family, your friends, and all living beings. And that is to use the 2 most powerful words in the English language 3 times, consciously and conscientiously, from now forward for the rest of your life. And what are these 2 words? Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank stands for to harmonize and network kindness. To harmonize and network kindness. The Dalai Lama is quoted kindness. Dalai Lama is quoted saying, I read in his writings, be kind whenever possible. And as he says, it's always possible. So let's imagine that we can go into our coffee shops again, no mask, no COVID. You walk into the coffee shop and you sit down, you order your latte, your fancy latte for $5, and somebody brings it to you. You say, thank you. Imagine going to the coffee shop. You sit down, you order a fancy latte for $5. A few minutes go by, nobody brings it to you. You go to the counter and say, oh, I'm sorry, we forgot. We're so busy. We'll bring it to you. Go back, you sit down, and you wait a couple minutes, somebody brings it to you. Still say, thank you. You're walking out of the coffee shop. It's raining out. Somebody holds the door for you. You say, thank you. You're walking out of the coffee shop and it's raining out. Somebody slams the door on you. You say, thank you. You're in traffic. You're late for an appointment. Somebody cuts you off. You say, thank you. You get up in the middle of the night, you stub your toe and it hurts. You say, thank you. To harmonize and network kindness. Kind stands for keep inspiring noble deeds. I cannot think of anybody that inspires noble deeds that I would love to share with the world. And amazing, wonderful, fabulous Dr. Dan Gottlieb. Wonderful Dan. Please say hello to 358,000 people around the world.
Hello, 358,000 people around the world. Hi, Barry.
Dan, it is such an honor, a privilege, a delight to be sharing a screen with you, a stage with you, because Dan Gottlieb, in addition to being him, is one of the most interesting, as I said, impactful and inspiring doctors in the world, because he deals with the real pain of life. His specialty is enabling people to rise up out of addiction and to regain life. And there's nothing better than that. That's literally, you are doing, I just realized, you're doing resurrection, Dan.
Oy.
Now, that's a great thing for a nice Jewish guy to do, because remember, when a nice Jewish boy, it happened to a long time ago, started a whole new movement. So that's what Dan Gottlieb does. I need to inform people a little bit about your background, so just bear with me. I'm going to make it very short because I know it embarrasses him a bit, but it's important for everybody else to know about this. So Dan started working as a psychologist in the 20th century. Because, by the way, I say it like that because most of the people listening to us are under the age of 38. So they sort of think about the 20th century, but they really have no idea about it. But he started way back in ancient times, called 1969, as a psychologist. And over the course of a decade, he got married, had 2 children, enjoying a successful career. I mean, he was really doing what everybody expects you to do, which is to live life to the full. And then the good Lord said, Dan, I need your attention. And in December of 1979, there was an automobile collision accident. As a result of that, Dan became a quadriplegic. Now, I talked about me being a quadriplegic. Thank God I'm much more mobile today. From my waist down, I can't move. I can't get up out of this chair. But I'm not in a wheelchair anymore. I was there for 4 years. Dan's been in the wheelchair for decades. It has in no way stunted his being, his emotions, his ability to help. Matter of fact, I'm going to go out on a branch, on a limb, very shaky one, a thin one, and say it may even have benefit him in being able to be more simpatico. Maybe. That's up to him to say, not for me. But the point is that since that time, as a quadriplegic, he has written 5 books. He writes a newspaper column for the Philadelphia Inquirer. He hosts an award-winning radio show for the Philadelphia Zoo. And I just love that whole gig. He did Zoo before Zoom existed. You see, he did Zoo. They just added on an M. It's now called Zoom. But he did a show for the Philadelphia Zoo because he cares about things. He cares about life. He has does a show, NPR affiliate, for 35 years. Now, again, most of the people listening are under 38. So when they were born, Dan started his radio show. So he's not a stranger to this medium called the world and showing his face and speaking. And by the way, the good news is Barry Show's going to stop speaking in a few minutes because I could go on and on with his CV, but I want him to talk about. And now, as he says, he's entering into the final chapters. He said chapter. I'm saying chapters of his life. And he's filled with gratitude and love. And I want to focus this show on Dan and those 2 words, love and gratitude. So let's just jump in with both feet or all 4 wheels, whatever you want to do it, Dan, and talk about the first issue that I mentioned, kindness. To, as I say, thanks stands for to harmonize and network kindness. Please, Dr. Dan Gottlieb, the stage, the world is yours.
You know, Barry, a story was rattling around in my head as I was listening to you talk in that very gracious introduction. After my accident, I was in the hospital, of course. I was in the ICU. I was suicidal. All I wanted to do is close my eyes and not wake up. And a nurse came up to me. Now my head and neck were immobilized and she was behind me. So I couldn't see her. And she said, you're a psychologist, aren't you? And I said, yeah. And she said, may I talk to you about something? And I said, of course. And she told me her story, the details of which I don't recall and aren't important. But she was suffering terribly. She had experienced terrible loss, like me. She didn't know how she could go on, like me. And I listened, and as the Buddhists say, listened deeply. I knew of her suffering because I felt it. I felt our common humanity. And at the end of that conversation, she said she felt better and she thanked me. And I closed my eyes and I said to myself, I can live with this because she taught me that I had the ability to help someone else. She taught me that by asking something of me, not by helping me, not by her words, but by asking something of me. She gave me a gift. So now when I ask something of others, I know in a way I'm giving them a gift. When I utter the three words that are so difficult for us Westerners to utter, please help me, I'm doing something for somebody else as well as they're doing something for me.
Dan, what you've been sharing in the past minute or so is exactly the reason I urged you to make the time to be here. Because you have touched humanity around the world. We have a worldwide listening audience with what you've just mentioned. I've been privileged to write several books. My latest one is called The Joy of Living. In there, I mention what I call the four most important words that anybody could ever internalize, utilize, and leverage in their life. And you just said them. The four words are, how can I help? When a person recognizes that we're here to be of service, no matter the circumstance, and Dan Gottlieb was in a circumstance that is so difficult, unique, that his entire world was stripped away. And he was able to rise up by another being touching him. And he recognized, how can I help? Because somebody said, please help me. He recognized that he's a giver. He knew it before, but it, like he said, I felt it. It wasn't in his gut in the same way. And that moment, the accident, for want of a better term, shifted. By the way, people have a lot of problem with the word shift. They tend to leave off the F in. You notice that? They just skip it around. Shift happens, and he went from suicidal to human. He wasn't a doctor. He was human. The most profound being on the planet. Yes, Dan.
I had a choice. And I thank God I was confronted with this choice. To live the life I have or to end my life. I didn't have the choice to live the life I wanted, I could have, I should have. I didn't have the choice to live the life I once had. My only choice was to live the life I have with the body I have or end my life. And I chose life.
By the way, Dan, that is a biblical expression that Dan is using. again, most of our audience is way under the age of 38, and the Bible is unknown to most people around the world these days, Dan. I'm just telling you as a statement of fact. In the Bible specifically, whether you read in the original Hebrew or in Greek or in English, Hindi, whatever the language, Chinese, doesn't matter. There is a passage in there where it has two words. Choose life. God says, I give before you life and death. Choose life. Who's going to choose the other? Dan said he was thinking about the other because it didn't comport with what his vision of who he was. Again, I say this with great humility to you. In my book, I mentioned the 6 most important words that anybody can ever begin to learn with self-talk are these. Choice, not chance, determines your destiny. Choice, not chance, determines your... The chance, quotation marks, accident, confronted you, Dan Gottlieb, Dr. Dan Gottlieb. We all know what doctor is, right? In the medical world, you get an MD. You know what MD stands for? Minor deity. And if you're a surgeon, MD stands for major deity. But you have this thing called doctor. Well, by definition, you know more than anybody, or at least as much as anybody. The ability for Dan to consciously and conscientiously choose life meant and means today that he is the energizing element that gives life to others. That's what you do, right, Dan?
No.
Okay.
I want to challenge it. I don't give life to others.
Okay.
I make it safe for others to reveal to themselves their own beauty, their own resilience, their own hunger to live. I don't give them anything they don't already have. I've got a sign on top of my office door, and it says, nobody gets to see the wizard, not nobody know how. and that's what I am, I'm
Wait a
the
minute.
wizard.
I appreciate that you challenged me because you refined it. I was trying to articulate what you said so beautifully because that's what you do. You enable. You're an enabler, Dan. And I thought for addicts, we don't do that. But I want to make a mention of something because it goes to the heart of something that we are working on at the very moment. Dan Gottlieb is sitting in a wheelchair. Barry Shaw was also quadriplegic. He's not sitting in a wheelchair. I can get up, albeit with a struggle. I can move around such. Okay, fine. So I have a little more movement than he does. But he's absolutely incredible. Look at that. He's able to pick up a coffee cup and drink. That is miraculous, and he appreciates it. When I was coming out of the hospital being released, I was released. I shall be released. I was. When the doctors were saying to me, Barry Shaw, you're never going to walk again. And I mean, all the things that doctors think they have to do with their nice bedside manner. Now, was I going to challenge them on the spot and be upset and yell at them, say, no, I'm going to, no, just quietly. But in my mind, I was using this, Dan, which I've shared with, thank God, many people in our situation. Diagnosis is not destiny. Diagnosis is not destiny. That amazing nurse in the ICU allowed you to recognize your destiny despite the diagnosis.
Barry, my grandson, Sam, was on the autism spectrum when he was born. And I wrote a book called Letters to Sam from essentially a grandfather with a disability to a grandson with a disability. Thank God he outgrew it and he's no longer on the spectrum. But one of the things I said to him is, you are not autistic. You have autism. I am not a quadriplegic. I have quadriplegia. I am still little Danny Gottlieb from Atlantic City. It was a pain in the butt to my parents. That's who I am at core. It's I'm not special. Um, you know, uh, my strong suit is the fact that I can love easily. And the reason I can love easily is because I'm well practiced. Most of what we do is habitual. And the more you do it, the more you do it. And that goes with love, it goes with resentment, it goes with hatred, it goes with fear, and it goes with what you do, Barry. Smile, embrace. And the more you do it, the more you do it.
There are hundreds of thousands of people that are listening to this, but the best news, Dan, is only one. Because this show's not about Dan Gottlieb. This show's not about Barry Shore. This show's about you. You, the one who's listening, who's being touched, as I am, as Dan is. Because he plays touch football. He just does it in a different way. He's talking about the things that matter most in life. And as he says, when you do those things, well, let's take this great line that I was taught many, many years ago. My mentor said to me, Barry, what about habits? Are they good or bad? And the answer is yes. You have good habits. You can do more of them. It's great. You have habits that cause you and others to create difficulties in life. Not so good. Like you said, resentment and things. Who would want to be involved with that? So the more you do of what we do called smiling. Now, I said SMILE is an acronym that stands for Seeing Miracles in Life Every Day. Dan certainly does that from the moment his eyes open until his eyes close at the end of the day. He is a miraculous beholder. He does it. Now, interesting enough, we have about 30 different acronyms of SMILE, but they all revolve around that same sort of idea. The interesting part also, Dan, and I think you received the Joy package. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
And in there, you got all the different cards and the book and everything. And for people who can't see, maybe we can put it up soon, but we have these wonderful cards that read, Keep Smiling. They're in 27 different languages, and more than 2.5 million have been distributed worldwide for free. It's part of my mission. It's part of the mission of this show, as we'll call it, just for want of a better term, it's a show. It's not a show. It's a mechanism to showcase amazing beings. And Dan, of course, self-deprecating as he is say, hey, I'm not special. Oh, there's that. What a picture on the screen now. Oh my gosh. I mean, I hope that will keep people here and not the other way around. But the ability for Dan to, as he says, love easily now, and that's the answer now, that is a skill set in the sense that he works to make sure that happens. Because his answer is, why not? Remember he told us before, choose life. Hello, everybody. Choose life. When you're a life chooser, life stands for living inspirationally for eternity. He knows he's not just here as a speck gone tomorrow. He talked about Sam, his grandson, by enabling Sam to recognize that he was not autistic. And that causes a label. He has autism. And guess what? He grew and not. But that's the genius of Dan. We're going to go to a break in just less than 20 seconds. And I urge everybody, put on your seatbelt, because on the other side of this, we're going to talk about trauma, self-compassion, And the two words that animate Dan's life and mine more than any, and they are love and gratitude. And people saying, Barry, sure, what are you doing with a water bottle that has wrapped around it love and gratitude? Well, you're going to learn all about that on the other side of this brief break. Be right back after these brief messages from people who love us. Hi, everybody. You know the story of Barry Shore, standing up in the morning, hale and hearty in the evening, completely, totally paralyzed. And I was like that for several years. You can imagine the difficulties I faced mentally, not just physically. And it's the mental aspect that was the most debilitating and the most frightening. And I got to tell you, it wasn't easy to speak to somebody. And I did. I finally did. I spoke to several people over the course of a number of years, and it helped immensely. And I know that it's hard to talk about these things. By the way, did you know that suicide is the 10th leading cause of death in the United States for all ages? About 21 million American adults have a mood disorder, and especially with depression and bipolar, there's an ability to get help. That's the genius of what we're talking about here. There is help available from what's called the dbsalliance.org. I want to tell you a couple other things. Over 47,000 Americans died by suicide in 2019. Over 47,000. And middle-aged white males have the highest rate of suicide, accounting for almost 70% of all deaths by suicide. On average, about 130 suicides every day. Every day. I urge you, please get involved for yourself, for a friend, for a family member, for someone you know that may have issues. I want you to go, please, to dbsalliance.org/suicide-prevention. Okay, it sounds like a lot, but I'm going to repeat it again, and you're going to hear it, you're going to see it on the screen. D as in David, B as in Barry, S as in Samuel, Alliance, dbsalliance.org/suicide-prevention, because we can prevent. Please do so now. Good day, beautiful, bountiful, beloved, immortal beings, and good-looking people. Maybe you're good-looking because you're always looking for and finding the good. We have good in abundance in a human being. Can you believe that? Dr. Dan Gottlieb. Or as he said, hey, I'm just Dan Gottlieb, from the hood. Same guy who irritates my parents and tickles my grandsons. And that's the genius of living life to the full. Dan, there are two issues that I want to raise, but I want to make sure that the overarching discussion for the next few minutes that we have together center around these two words, again, that I have put on my water bottle. And you might even ask me why I have my water bottle. We'll talk about it. But these two words are the words that animate me, and based on what I've read about you and see you now and hear your voice, animate you. And they are love and gratitude.
Barry, I saw those words, love and gratitude, on the water bottle. And my first thought was that I feel grateful that my catheter works when I drink. And I just love the way all that stuff works together. You can feel grateful about anything.
When Dan said the word catheter, I went, oh, because thank God I don't have it now, but I did for a long time, Dan, a lot longer. But the point is that what he just shared with us is the ability to be grateful. Actually, it's interesting, Dan, I just realized, let's use the word grateful. So we know the word full, F-U-L, at the end of the word. Does that mean, when you hear the word great, G-R-A-T-E, it usually means something is grating against something else. So it's fun to think that grateful really means something that's positive. Oh, I love this. Infinite love and gratitude. Thank you. Yes, that's what we're doing here. So we'll unpack that another time. But the ability to be grateful, to express it to oneself, and therefore to now enable it to emanate and therefore touch others. You see, that's the genius of being grateful and being, like you said, loving easily. It emanates from the being. And by definition, that energy can never go lost, can never be stopped. Four walls don't stop it. There's no mountain that can stop it. And it radiates everywhere. By the way, by definition, the same thing on the opposite side. So that's why we want to be as careful about our thoughts, our words, and our deeds as possible. Would you agree with that, Dan?
Yeah, absolutely. Um, I, this business of gratitude, Sartre said you should live with death on your shoulder. And I do, and I have been for 40 years. Death always feels nearby. I've come very close so many times. And sometimes I can feel its breath on my cheek. And when I live with death on my shoulder, then I live with life on my other shoulder. And when I look outside, I'm fortunate enough to have lots of trees on outside my house. And when I look outside at any given season, I don't trust that I will see that season again. That's why I said I'm in the last chapter. I hope it's a long one. But I don't know if I'm going to see that season again and how beautiful it looks to me today.
Unpack something for a moment, if I may, with you on that. I am fortunate that I was raised in a place called Boston, Massachusetts. Now, as I said, we have a worldwide audience, so we can't just talk about the United States. So Dan lives in the Northeast. I was raised in Boston, which does have what we used to call cold winters and snow and things like that, and hot summers, and then sometimes a beautiful spring and sometimes a beautiful fall. But when I was at the age of 8, I remember distinctly because this changed me, Dan, like you're talking about changed you. I was looking out the window. I remember exactly where I was, 8 years old, looking out the window. It was the deep, deep December, dark, and that was the middle of the day. And it was snowing out and raining at the same time. We call it slush. I don't know if you know that, Noor. We call it slush on the ground. People in India listening, what are you talking about? Anyway, it's true. There's slush on the ground. It's cold out. And I use these words. I even hesitate to say the words at the moment, but I have to do it for expression. I looked out the window and I said, oh, what a horrible day. I heard a voice behind me almost shrieking. It was my Aunt Edie saying, Bearshy. That was her nickname for me. What are you talking about? Look at that. Do you realize what that snow is doing, what that rain is doing? You know how it's covering the ground and making all the things calm and plant. And in the springtime, it's going to be fabulous to go outside. You're going to be playing ball because of this stuff. It is such a wondrous experience. And I heard the words. I had no idea what Aunt Edie was talking about. But at that moment, my eyes sort of opened up and I thought I saw something different. Thank God, years later, maybe it was a decade, but it wasn't much more. I really was able to look upon every day like that because of that moment that Aunt Edie said, hello, that we're alive.
And Barry, I am grateful that you had an Aunt Edie, and I'm grateful that you have some of her genetics of joy, of gratitude. I feel grateful for that.
Woo!
My grandmother used to have an expression that I didn't understand until I was well into my adult life. She used to say, go no. So when something happens and you think it's bad, go no. Something happens and you think it's good, go no. And Barry, if I may, I want to tell you something that happened to me when I was 12, and it's a very heavy story. I was in seventh grade. I idolized my seventh grade teacher. He was a man's man, very different from my dad, who was a sweet, gentle soul. But this guy was ex-military. I idolized. Anyway, I wasn't a very good student. I didn't have much going on for me. I had a learning disability. I got bad grades. We didn't know about learning disabilities back then, so I thought there was something wrong. I just thought I was inferior intellectually. But the kids liked me, and they confided in me, and I always had a lot of friends. And we had career day, and he said to me, go find a psychologist and have them come in for career day. I didn't know what it was. You know, this is 1958. I didn't know.
You couldn't even spell it.
I still can't. So I found Joseph Fields, and he came and he talked about what he did. And when he talked about psychotherapy, I said to myself, that's it. That's what I want to do. I'm going to be a psychologist. Bad grades or not, I didn't care. I knew I was going to be a psychologist somehow. That teacher who introduced me to psychology also, a couple of months later, abused me sexually. He gave me a gift and he stole something from me. Man's no longer alive. He got caught and committed suicide long, long after that episode. So what do I leave that from? You know, go no. I'm a psychologist. I'm 75 years old, and I am happier today than most of the people on the planet. And why? You know, you talked about trillions of synapses in our brains. I am happier than most people on the planet for a trillion reasons, a trillion things that have happened to me since the moment that sperm fertilized that egg. And here's little Danny. And I was fortunate that I was raised by two parents who were just garden variety neurotics, you know. And I had a safe childhood. Fortunate, grateful that a trillion things happened to me that leave me where I am today. Alive, grateful, loving, and loved. What more can anybody ask for?
Go no. I want to make sure that everybody understands that when grandma said go no, so Mo is putting it up GONO. Mo, I want you to amend it. When grandma said go no, it's KNOW. So, and I want to unpack that for a moment, Dan, because I think you're going to not just like what I'm about to tell you. I think you're going to chuckle. You're going to tickle yourself. You're going to fall over in laughter. You ready? Happens to be in my book. I talk about the word no. The word no is heard, in my humble opinion, all too often by children, from parents, from others, and it becomes far more common than the word yes. So no becomes, like you said, a habit. No, no, no. So what I have done, and what I've done, thank God, Dan, I'm able to tell you this for literally thousands of people, is to help them reframe the word no, to always surround it with a K and a W. Now, and here's where it gets really interesting. Whenever you hear the word no, surround it with a K and a W. What does a K and a W stand for, though? As Dan exemplifies, kindness and wisdom. Because that's what your grandmother taught you. Go, no. Kindness and wisdom surround every one of those things called no. And when you have that as your, how should we say it, your jetpack, your energizer, your very animated being, then from the moment your eyes open and you're here and you recognize that you're here, then you are already cranking the grateful engine. You're a jet engine, supersonic into space, gratifying bunny. You know, they have the Energizer bunny. Dan is the grateful bunny and the love bunny. Wow, you know that? You can tell your wife that you are part of the bunny empire. I want to also mention to you, if I may, that one of the acronyms that I use for God, because you talked about looking out the window and trees and gardens. So God is an acronym that stands for Garden of Delight. That's really who or what God is. And when you recognize that it's a garden of delight called life, then by definition, you are exuding and living in love as Dan is. So I want to just bring up again this water bottle. So people saying, okay, Barry Shaw, what's this whole thing with a water bottle surrounded with words of love and gratitude? I have to put this in all my water bottles because I am a fan, a devotee, or devotee, depending how you want to pronounce it, of this great, interesting being who walked the earth, just passed away not long ago, Dr. Masaru Emoto. Oh, wow, he's up there. Dr. Masaru Emoto had a vision. His vision was, or is, that water, which is the major element in our beings, if you could photograph it when it's crystallized, it might reveal something. And he got it from, Dan, the most interesting and basic idea that every school kid knows who lives in a place with snow. And that is the famous line, there are no two snowflakes that are alike, which, by the way, is somewhat of a staggering thought. I mean, that's enough to be grateful about and dance around the room, right? So he said, wait a minute, snowflakes, no two are alike. What is snow? Isn't it really water? So he said, what if I could freeze water, crystallize it, and photograph it? What would it look like? That was the premise. And his next premise is, he said, I'm going to tap into my inner Dan Gottlieb, and I'm going to surmise that if someone plays beautiful music or says loving words, that it will affect the water, and by the opposite situation, of course. And guess what? After years of research, he found it to be true that if you hold a bottle of water or a cup of water and you use the words love and gratitude just before you drink, that it literally transforms the water. And it's not just, gee, that's a nice idea, silly beings like Dan and Barry. No, we're talking about this is true. These are images that Dr. Emoto took over the course of years on both the positive aspects and what we'll call, for want of a better term, the negative aspects of crystallography. And you can look it up online and things like that. So what I did for a while ago is I said, well, it's true, and I believe it, and I know it's true. So I made sure that anything I do that has to do with water, and as you said, Dan, if the catheter is working, we're grateful because we're flowing, because we're water, 70% now. You know, as like you said, the sperm and the egg and the fetus, we were almost 99% water. So we're losing we're water, but we want to keep that going. So love and gratitude is what animates life. And those are the two most important aspects of being Dan Gottlieb. So let's move that and talk about how that works with something that you call, and I love the term, self-compassion.
So let me go back to that horrible story about my teacher. I was 12 years old. And for years after that, I had this vision of me going into the room as an adult and beating the hell out of this guy. One day, years ago, I drove to that neighborhood. Now, he's been long gone. This is some 60 years after it happened. I drove into that neighborhood. 60 years, the house has been knocked down. There's new houses. But I went to that corner in my wheelchair, and I stared at that house, remembering every detail, the wallpaper, the sofa in the living room, the bedroom. And I saw that 12-year-old boy. And in my heart, in my mind, I went in there and I took him out and I held him and loved him and took him home. That's self-compassion. To love the child we've abandoned, and Barry, we all have. All of us who hit adversity in our childhood, in our young adulthood, in our adulthood, we walk away from that person we were. Love that person. Love that child you were. Look in the mirror. Look in your eyes. And stay there until you can see your own soul, and you will see your goodness. You've made good decisions and bad decisions. But under it all, there's goodness in there. And nurture that goodness. Be kind. Doesn't mean everything you do is right. It doesn't mean there's no room for growth and development. It just means there's a core of goodness in there. Kindness. That's all it means. Look in the mirror and see that.
Use the term nurture. We're all gardeners. It's our garden. We can raise up a beautiful, bountiful, beloved, remarkably giving garden of delight, God. You use the term self. I am happy to say I was introduced to this many years ago by a psychologist who shall remain nameless. However, she taught me the following. There's two levels of the self. We won't go into the lower level for the moment, but the higher levels we talked about is recognizing that you are a soul experiencing life fully. That's what the self is. When you can get to that higher self and recognize that you're a soul experiencing life fully, the body is the body. It is beside the point. It's here. Thank God the catheter works. But you're a soul experiencing life fully. And you use time well. Time is an amazing idea, which we've been working with now, Dan. I'm going to ask you three quick questions. By the way, time stands for thinking it's miraculous every day. How do you like that one, Dan? thinking it's miraculous every day, teaching it's miraculous every day, because you know that it's miraculous every day. Those are 3 acronyms of time. I have 3 quick questions. Then we're going to have to say adieu. 3 quick questions. Number 1, will you come back again?
Sure.
Woo! Okay. Number 2, may I give you a hug in front of now 372,823 people around the world? Okay, wait a minute, 1 second. I got to tell you what HUG stands for, which you're going to love. Harmonizing Unlimited Giving.
Oy.
Harmonizing.
I thought you were going to talk about singing. I got scared.
Harmonizing Unlimited Giving. Here we go, Dan. Put those arms out again. 1, 2, 3. Okay, Dan, you got 80 seconds to answer this question. You ready? 80 seconds. What's your most fervent desire?
To love better, to love more, to teach love, and to give away everything I have before I die.
I love you.
Thank you, Barry. I love you too. And I love your
You
audience.
have been listening to the Keep Smiling Show with your humble host, Barry Shore, and the ambassador of joy, and our amazing, inspiring, impactful, transformational guest, Dr. Dan Gottlieb. Remember, we're here. It's all about you, not about Dan, not about Barry. It's all about you. You becoming the best you possible. When you do that, you'll be happier, healthier, and wealthier. And we use the 3 fundamentals of life to get there. And those 3 fundamentals of life are: life has purpose. When you live a purpose-driven life, you can go mad. MAD is a great acronym. It stands for Make a Difference. And the 3rd fundamental of life is uncover the power and the secrets of everyday words and terms, such as WWW, what a wonderful world. Smile, seeing miracles in life every day. As my 8-year-old niece says, seeing miracles in everyday life. Create the kind of world you want to live in, causing rethinking, as Dan says, enabling all to excel. Use 4-letter words: love, life, hope, grow, free, gift, swim, pray, play. 4-letter word. And tell the world, F you. Capital N, capital N. You got to add that capital N, capital N. So you see your friends after the show, family, and you point your fingers at F you. Say, where'd you get that? I listen to the Keep Smiling Show. Barry Shore wants to teach the world to F you. And remember to use the 2 most powerful words in the English language 3 times a day, conscientiously and conscientiously, as Dan taught us. You want to cultivate those good habits. And what are the 2 most powerful words, as Dan said? Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, because thanks stands for to harmonize and network kindness. The Dalai Lama wrote and said in his writings, be kind whenever possible. As Dan said, it's always possible. Kind stands for keep inspiring noble deeds. Yes, you can do that. Keep inspiring noble deeds. It also stands for keep connect in nature daily. As he says, he can look out the window, and doesn't matter the season, connect in nature daily. Because when you do that, what's going to happen? You will become more positive, purposeful, powerful, and pleasant. And when you do that, you become a bountiful, beautiful, beloved, immortal being, and you become the ultimate good-looking person. Because good looking means you're always looking for and finding the good. That's the genius of life. So from Dan and Barry, we offer you a blessing. May I do that, Dan? From both of us, a blessing? Our blessing to you is go forth, live exuberantly, spread the seeds of joy, happiness, peace, and love. Go mad. Go make a difference. Thank you, Dan.